How about that?
Red light, shut. There you go.
There we go. Now we're working. I think it's working.
You gonna switch it around when they do?
No. She's lucky I'm going to just run it here.
That's a better computer.
So why don't you bring Lily down to the park next time? Mr. Tyson's last sponsor.
Yes. All right, we're ready. You ready? I'll sit here. Let me know. Take this one right here. Good afternoon and welcome to this week's meeting of the Columbia Rotary Club. It's great to see so many smiling faces. We'll get started with the singing of our national anthem led by Jim and Rusty.
Thank you, President Mark. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for this beautiful day and the opportunity to gather together with friends at the Columbia Rotary Club. We ask your blessings on this club, its members, our families, and friends. We pray for those who are struggling right now in their lives, and we ask that you help us to be mindful of their needs as well as the ideals of Rotary, and to remember the importance of service to others in our daily lives. We thank you for our speaker here today, and we ask your blessings on her work. Please bless this food and use it to nourish and strengthen us. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. I want to welcome everyone today to our meeting. I'll remind you to put some money in the cart bucket. Every table has a blue bucket. All the money that goes into that bucket will work to fund Alzheimer's research. So please give generously to the cart today. I'll call forward Beth Ira. Beth is going to welcome everyone, our visiting Rotarians and guests.
Thank you, President Mark. Good morning. Hope your Monday's off to a good start. We have one visiting Rotarian with us today. Joel Collins from the Lake Murray Club could stand. Hi, Joel. Glad you're here. A volunteer. Do we have anybody that has a guest with them today? So, we'd like you to introduce your guest. Thank you.
I'm Harry Jeffcoat, and my guest is Will Leaper. Will is a junior at the University of South Carolina studying, believe it or not, political science and biology. He is from New York, but importantly, a third-generation Gamecock. And Mr. Collins wanted everybody to know that he made an A in his honors Constitution class.
Hello, I'm Kay Shaw, and my guest today is Carol Carrington. Carol is the principal of Midlands Middle College. This program, this school is on the campus, airport campus of Midlands Technical College. Please welcome Carol Carrington.
Do you have any other guests?
I am Gene Rogers, and I am proud and happy that I have 6 guests today. The first one I want to introduce is a lawyer who was formerly with Rogers and Thomas, and because of that, she was promoted to head the best title insurance company, she says, in South Carolina. She's the state manager of Chicago Title Insurance Company, Jennifer Rubin. Is United States Marine Corps retired gunny sergeant Bob Hearn, a decorated veteran of the war in Vietnam. Bob Hearn. And like me, he married above himself to a 40-year veteran of the Rogers Townsend law firm, Jackie Hearn. Pleased and happy and proud to introduce the widow of 2 decorated Vietnam combat veterans and my wife, Elsie Rass Stewart, who very graciously permitted me to keep my maiden name when we were married. It is now my personal pleasure and high honor to introduce the president and owner of Ambrosia LLC, a Greek food catering company and exclusive distributor in South Carolina of Evia, an exceptional organic Greek extra virgin olive oil, Carol Rogers Papalensis, whose name is easy to remember because if you can remember that Mama won't let us, but Papa lets us, that's my present to you a 2-time Vietnam combat veteran, 2 tours, once with MAG and once with Special Forces, career United States Army officer who headed and is a Major General in the South Carolina Military Department, General F. Eli Wishart.
Any other guests? Thank you so much. Have a great week.
Okay, John Keith, past President John Keith, has this week's Health and Happiness Report.
I don't know if you've noticed, but the sound works better in this room, and I think that has something to do with this man right here. Thank you, President Mark. Some sad news, and keep him in your prayers. Bob Rogers, who has been a member of our club since 1976, is near death. He's in the hospital. He's moving home to hospice. So this report from David Donges, but keep him in your prayers. Ed Greenleaf is now a new licensed broker affiliated with Joel Lurie. So he says his focus is Medicare and regular health insurance. Catherine Davis, I'm glad you're here. Catherine has a torn meniscus, and she is here with us. Mark, and in pain, and in a bad mood, but she's with us.
It's all about the club service.
No, you're not in a bad mood. You're in a good mood. You're always in a good mood. Where's Galen Scubs? Galen, you here? I know you're here. There he is. Stand up. I know you're eating. Galen Scopes, you probably don't, I would not have known this, but Galen has run 2 marathons and also has run the Palmetto 200 relay. Congratulations. And Jim Hudson's here. Jim is an honorary member of our club. He's here a lot on Mondays, and Jim, we're glad to see you back. I know you had back surgery and look like you're doing really good, so welcome back. Amy Beth told me today that the 5 Points Foundation donated $54,500 to local charities and nonprofits for the 2016 St. Patrick's Day 5 Points Festival. That is phenomenal. And Jack asked me to mention that Saturday, April the 9th is Bark to the Park, and that is an event to benefit homeless pets. So put that on your calendar, Finley Park, April the 9th. Let's see. Jimmy Williamson has, our past district governor, I didn't see Jimmy today, but Jimmy has accepted a job in North Carolina as the president of the North Carolina Community College System. So he will be leaving us sometime in July. So if you see Jimmy, congratulate him. He'll be a loss to our state and to our community. I didn't see Beth here, Beth Dindorf, and the president of South University, David Shoup, signed a memorandum of understanding. They're going to start a Doctor of Pharmacy program together. So that's some good news. If you saw in the paper, the South Carolina Military History Museum has bought a lot of weaponry, $620,000 worth for the Confederate Relic Room. This is the largest collection of British imported Confederate weapons, and you'll want to see that when they get this set up. I'm not going to take the thunder away from whoever it will be introducing our speaker today, but Elaine Freeman and the Keith family go back a long time. And Elaine is an organizer, and just let me tell you how organized she is. In 1972, she organized me to take her daughter Heather to camp. I don't know if you remember that, but I had a 1963 Volkswagen, and we headed up to Asheville, and I wasn't sure I was going to make it on those hills with that 64 Volkswagen, but Elaine had me take her daughter to camp. I still remember that. Do you think you're going to be audited by the IRS? Probably not. 1% of you get audited, and that's from 147 million tax returns. And they're starting to audit more people whose income's over $1 million. So that's a lot of us in the club, so better be careful. There is some research. We talked about Alzheimer's. You made your donations, hopefully, to the Blue Bucket. Research at Stony Brook University, at the School of Medicine there, said they have performed research using rats and found, this is true, I'm not making this up, that when animals slept on their sides, their brains cleared the waste out of their heads, and they were able to remove things like amyloid beta, and tau, which are products that cause Alzheimer's. So if you're sleeping on your stomach, you need to be sleeping on your side. This is true. Okay, do you have any old mugs around the house? I've got so many mugs that I usually give them away. Starbucks mugs, listen to this, are fetching a nice price. For example, if you have a 2009 Porta Vallarta mug featuring a picture of a seahorse, that's sold for $1,350 on eBay. And then if you have the John Wayne Hellfighter, from the movie The Hellfighters, that one sold for $1,580. So do not give away those mugs quite yet. How much is a basketball team worth? On the open market, how much do you think the Carolina basketball team would be worth? Ryan Brewer, an assistant professor at Purdue, predicted this. He said if it was on the open market like a professional team, the University of South Carolina would be worth $45.5 million. The number one team, most worth team is Louisville, worth $301 million. Last thing, how many of you are going to Augusta this week? Any of you? Be sure to go to number 13 because Dustin Johnson and Bubba Watson are costing Augusta National $30 million. What's happened is because of their strength and their ability to cut the corner on 13, they're hitting to the green with, with pitching wedges and nines. That wasn't the way they designed the course in 1933. So Augusta National is negotiating with the Augusta Country Club to buy some land, to lengthen the course, to rebuild number 9 at the Augusta Country Club for $30 million. So if you go to the course, be sure to see 13 because it won't be the same next year. Hope you have a great week.
Nice job, John. Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm reminded right now that today is John Keith's birthday. So happy birthday, John. Great job, and thanks for sharing today. A lot of preparation there, and thank you so much. And keeping the meeting moving, I'll call forward Catherine, who's going to limp up here. Why don't you stay down here?
I actually wrote it. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to talk about the club survey again, which we introduced last Monday. And we had several of you to complete these paper surveys at our last meeting. And I'm happy to report that I want to tell you thank you, but I need a whole lot more of you to complete them, or either go online, which is much, much easier, and it takes about 2 minutes or 3 maybe to do, unless you're unsure of what you'd like to see the club doing this year and next year and the following years. But this board and the next board really, really, really wants to know what you think about what you'd like to see the Columbia Rotary Club doing in our community. So in order to do that, we need to hear your thoughts. We need for you to complete 2 questions and add some more. Several of you online, those that have completed online, have made several comments about some things that are non-traditional for the Columbia Rotary Club. So I'd really like to hear from all of you so that we can engage you even more. So I'm encouraging you, while I'm here and limping around, I'll be glad to give you paper copies of this survey that you can complete today, leave on your tables, give it back to me. And you also will get a link sent to you again from Carrie or from the Columbia Rotary Club, encouraging you to complete online if you don't care to do the paper copy. But either way, you need to complete it by next Monday, April 11th, please. Your voice, your opinion matters, and we really want to do what you're interested in doing. So thank you for your time, and thanks to those who have completed the survey.
let's get a volunteer to pass these out for Catherine. I need someone to help
I
her
don't
with
mind,
this.
I came here just for this.
Thank you, Catherine. This information is vital, and so please take a few minutes, a couple minutes is all you need, to either go online or fill out this survey so that we can have this information. It will be very beneficial to the future of our club. And the future of our club, we've got a couple things coming up. We are in the process right now, and Neil Coyle is going to come tell you about it. We're in the process right now of interviewing candidates for a scholarship that we award annually. So Neil, come forward and tell us where you are in that process.
This is a big week for our scholarship program. In the next couple afternoons, 7 of us will interview 21 candidates, all obviously high school seniors, from all the schools, both public and private, in District 1. These scholarships can total up to $20,000, so they're very significant to these young people. And I want to tell you a little bit about them. We obviously have a number of students that are members of the National Honor Society. We have some Eagle Scouts. We have class presidents. We have editors of school newspapers. A number of the students participate in sports. And almost all of them participate in some kind of community service, either through their church or other organizations. One of our requirements is that they score at least 1,100 on the SAT. Almost all of them are over 1,200. We require at least a 22 on the ACT if they take that, and 2/3 of them are over 25. Think back to your days when you may have taken those tests. Those are better scores than I got. And the average grade point for every student, save a couple, is over 4 points. That means that they're taking honors courses, advanced placement classes. There are 21 amazing young people that we will meet and talk to this week for about 15 or 20 minutes. And then come Wednesday afternoon when we're done, the 7 of us will have the difficult task of picking 2 that we will offer scholarships to. But it's an amazing experience. If you'd like to join us for just a little bit of time to meet a few of these students, we'd love to have you. If you have any questions about the scholarship committee, I'd be glad to answer those. If you have them now or after the meeting. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Neil. That committee does a lot of work. You know, that's a lot of time to invest in the interview process. So Neil's been doing it a number of years, does a great job for us. Thank you for your commitment to it, Neil. And where does the money come from? I mean, it doesn't grow on the tree out back behind Seawells. Where does the money come from? Well, a lot of folks are hard at work right now to raise that money. They are the golf committee, the golf tournament committee. And the golf tournament is the club's big fundraiser of this year. It'll be April 25th. And there'll be a lot more information about it. You've already heard from Carl Byers and other folks about it. Bob Diggle is standing at the door each week to invite you to play. We encourage all of you to play. There's lunch. If you don't want to play golf, there's a lunch option, a dinner option. We just want to get people together to have a good time and enjoy some fellowship. There's also a big fundraising component of it. So we would encourage you to play, to support the club so that we can continue a long-standing tradition here at Columbia Rotary of supporting high school seniors as they attend college and consider college. So that's all coming up. And now we will hear from Gene Rogers, who will introduce this week's program.
Thank you, President Mark, fellow Rotarians and guests. We're in the greatest nation in the history of the planet. We live in the land of the free because it's the home of the brave. Except for World War II, this country 50 years ago was fighting in the most deadly and costly war of the century. At that time, at one time, we had, under the command of General William Westmoreland of Spartanburg, South Carolina, over 500,000 American soldiers. That includes Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, and others. The highest military decoration the world has to offer is the Congressional Medal of Honor. In that war, there were 247 medals of honor awarded. 2/3 of them were awarded posthumously to the widow or to the mother. Typical is the United States Marine Corps had 56 medals of honor awarded to its Marines, and 78% of those were awarded posthumously. Of the 56, only 13 were awarded or placed by the President around the neck of a survivor. It's the only military decoration that is placed by the President around the neck of the person to whom it's awarded. Two of those recipients, United States Navy SEAL Lieutenant Michael Thornton from Spartanburg, South Carolina, is one of the living recipients. The other living recipient, and I say living recipients because at one time we had 5 recipients living in South Carolina. One of them is Colonel Murray, that many of you knew. The other current living recipient is United States Marine Corps Major General Jim Livingston of Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. Abraham Lincoln said on May 4th, 1865, a nation that does not honor its heroes will not long survive. One of the goals of South Carolina's ETV is honoring heroes. Today we have with us to tell you about the program of the South Carolina Educational TV, 2 members of the production team who broadcast in the past South Carolinians in World War II and the attending Man and Moment series, which saw national broadcast. The goal of South Carolina ETV is to preserve for future generations the memory of valiant, brave South Carolinians who sacrificed so much for the freedom we often take for granted. The team continues this mission because it is now in pre-production for 3 programs on the Vietnam War, captioned Valor in Vietnam, and is for South Carolina publication of broadcast and for national broadcast. Elaine Freeman, who has already been mentioned, is the founding executive director of the ETV Endowment of South Carolina in support of ETV and public radio program, and served in that capacity until 2008, after which she was the executive producer of Marion McFarland's Piano Jazz, the longest running cultural series on the national PR. She's a graduate of Wellesley College. She has been recipient of the Elizabeth O'Neill Verna Award for the Arts and recipient of the Order of the Palmetto. Wade Sellers, a graduate in Media Arts at the University of South Carolina, is an accomplished independent filmmaker and cinematographer with 3 Emmy nominations and numerous film festivals to his credit. He's the owner of Coal-Powered Filmworks with a broad clientele that includes commercial entities, and is very proud of his work for ETV in telling the noble history of our veterans, one of whom is a member of this club. I now present Elaine Freeman.
Rogers. I always call him General Rogers.
Can you speak into the microphone, please?
We thank General Rogers, who we always call General Rogers, and you ladies and gentlemen of the Columbia Rotary Club for allowing us to share with you today. It's an opportunity to present a work which began nearly a decade ago. It was the vision of the late John Rainey, documenting the experience of South Carolina-based participants in World War II and Vietnam. He himself was a Vietnam veteran. And the goal of our project is to transmit to future generations the importance of courage, steadfastness, and the selflessness of those who sacrificed in order to preserve our heritage of liberty. Today's world mainly focuses on the present and instant celebrity like the Kardashians. And we must not lose this memory of this greater sacrifice. And ETV is the perfect partner for this effort. The E in ETV stands for the education of all generations. Our project has been funded over this decade by nearly 90 funders, 90 donors. Foundations like the State Guard Foundation, to whom we are most grateful, veterans, individuals, corporations, 90 donors. They range from a $25 gift from a World War II veteran to one $50,000 grant from a foundation.
For the South Carolinians in World War II series, we interviewed over 180 individual military veterans, medical personnel, Holocaust survivors, and citizens who had some relationship to the war, such as a couple of Columbia residents who were children at Pearl Harbor, and others whose lives were changed forever by World War II. My personal overall takeaway from completing this project was that it is now more important than ever to know and understand our history and share it with future generations. And our documentation must be available to all via the medium which is now most readily available, which is television and, of course, online, the internet. From these interviews, we produced 8 chronological hours of South Carolinians in World War II, and which was only actually supposed to be originally one single 1-hour show, and 3 individual man-and-moment profiles. These profiles, we traveled with the veterans back to the battlefields on which they fought. And I believe right now we're going to look at the Murray clip from the Charles Murray episode.
This is the first time I've been present at the dedication of this time in Germany at all. And this is an ideal place to start my experience with this type of event in Germany, because this is to all is very, very important. For the 3rd Division, this pretty well meant, and Salzburg meant the end of the fighting in Europe, which came about 3 days later.
This is, even for me that are just about 37 years old, an interesting day, because I've heard it from my grandfather, who fought in World War II, and so it has quite an influence back on our lives in here in Berchtesgaden.
Near the end of the visit, Murray sat down in the solarium of the Hotel Salzburg, looking out over the city he loved.
See, the tears in my eyes right now, which is very emotional as I think back to the war, my soldiers and my family. And I really get kind of sniffed up a little bit, which is all right. Even a grown man, an older man can cry if he wants to.
Ready, stand. Ready, stand.
A little more than a year later, he died in his sleep from complications following surgery. The would-be accountant's heroic acts made him a Medal of Honor recipient. A career Army officer, he was known as much for his humility as for his bravery. And to his final day, he was an advocate for his fellow veterans. Today, he is buried in Arlington National Cemetery.
A lot of people think that people do the kinds of heroic things that he did because he was a patriot. He was. But it's not the patriotism alone that leads you to do the kinds of things Charles Murray did. What drove him was his love of his soldiers. He trained them. He held them accountable to very, very specific standards. But when it came to taking care of them, he never expected his soldiers to do anything he wouldn't do personally.
It was not a pretentious awesomeness that he had. It was a plain everyday, this is a great guy to be around and to have a friend. And to know that if you needed him to take a German pillbox, you know, he could probably pick up an M1 rifle or BAR or a couple of rifle grenades and go do it tomorrow, you know, and it was that kind of guy. And I don't think he ever lost that, you know, lost that hardcore steel piece that was thrown on him.
This is the first time I've been present.
It was a real privilege to get to know Colonel Murray. He was indeed a humble gentleman, and perhaps many of you knew him as well. ETV and its supporting endowment and the production team are now turning to the next phase, to the Vietnam War, in recognition of its 50th anniversary. And we'll be documenting the highly personal experiences of 3 unique individuals while placing chronologically around their odysseys interviews with other Marine veterans and Army veterans and Navy SEALs. 2 of those veterans were from Columbia, and one of them has a very close relationship to the Columbia Rotary Club. We have titled our series Valor in Vietnam, and that title is not misplaced. The young man on the left on your screen is from Columbia, Steve Flaherty. He was adopted by a Columbia family from a Japanese orphanage, the son of an American father and a Japanese mother. Adopted at the request of Robert Flaherty, who was in service in Vietnam in the 80s and volunteered at the orphanage, had his father send him baseball gloves and bats and balls, and he taught the young children how to play baseball. Steve, he fell in love with and asked his father to adopt Steve, and he did. He was a high school baseball standout, a college baseball standout, and he was recruited by the major leagues, but at the age of 22, when he had enlisted instead in the service, he was killed in Vietnam. He was, at the time of his death, there were 4 letters in his pocket, written to his mother and to relatives and to a friend. The North Vietnamese used those letters as broadcast propaganda, and they were finally returned 43 years after they were written in the first official exchange of the Vietnam War, when Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta, with a North Vietnamese soldier's diary in his pocket, went to Vietnam, and the exchange was made, that first exchange. And the letters are now in the possession of his family, and Steve's life story will be the first to be emphasized. The second Colombian, the man in the middle, is Jack Van Loan, an 83-year-old survivor of the Hanoi Hilton, like his friend Senator John McCain. Van Loan was a pilot, shot down, captured, imprisoned, mercilessly tortured by the North Vietnamese for 6 years until his release. He still suffers physically, but he has led a very full life. And Jack, as you well know, is a former president of the Columbia Rotary Club. And his story is compelling indeed. The third individual that we will focus upon is that landlocked Navy SEAL Michael Thornton from Spartanburg. And we will let you tell his own story in this excerpt from a Medal of Honor event. He's the man on the right.
When top officers voted on a Medal of Honor for Navy SEAL Mike Thornton, there was one holdout.
Chief of Naval Operations was at the Zone officer, why are you voting no? And he basically said, how does a guy do that and still be alive?
Heroes do not win wars by themselves, but in every conflict there are men like Mike Thornton, who in the heat of battle do things that defy belief. The Medal of Honor is awarded for those actions. In October 1972, Mike Thornton was 23 years old on his 4th tour of duty in Vietnam. He had always wanted to be a Navy frogman. American troops had already begun their withdrawal when he joined a reconnaissance mission led by Lieutenant Thomas R. Norris. With 3 South Vietnamese soldiers, they traveled north to scout the Qua Viet River.
I called him, looked around, checked to make sure there was no enemy in sight, and then we called them up one at a time. I said, I don't see the Qua Viet. Tom said, I don't see you. So I went south for the Qua, came back, no river. We didn't know where we were, and they didn't know where we were.
Patrolling inland, the team passed a fortified enemy base. That's when Thornton realized they had been mistakenly put ashore inside North Vietnam.
You hear something, you stop, listen, move. Stop and listen, move. There was a creek to the north of us, and I said, let's get in that creek and let's follow it back out to the ocean. We passed the enemy from 10 feet away in some areas. You can see them in the bonfire actually silhouetting themselves while we were up on the outside.
As they neared the ocean, Thornton spotted 2 enemy soldiers on patrol outside a village. He knocked one unconscious and signaled for Thai, a young Vietnamese officer on his first mission with Thornton, to take out the other.
I'm going like this to him to move out, to sneak up behind this guy, knock him out, eliminate him, whatever needs to be done. And he stands up, and this guy's 100 and something yards away from him, yells, lie day, mile in, lie day. He's up there yelling, lie day, mile in.
Yelling, get over here, almost cost them their lives. The startled North Vietnamese soldier turned and opened fire.
And I just started running because I knew he was headed for that village. And then I look up and there's about 50 to 75 of the militia coming forward, flying at me. And I opened fire on them. Tommy came down off the sand dune and had a long rocket. He was shooting into the trees so I could break contact.
The firefight that began at sunrise lasted 7 hours, pinning the men down in the sand dunes.
They took this Chi-Con grenade and they threw it over to my side. An American grenade is 4 seconds instantaneous, go 1,000, 2,000. So I'm going 1,000, 2,000. I grab this grenade and I throw it back and I went 6,000, 7,000, new grenade. They throw it back, I'm going 8,000, 9,000. I'm going 11,000, 12,000. And they throw it back and I said, this grenade's got to go off. Well, it did, and I rolled over. I turned over and rolled away from the grenade. It went off and I got hit 6 times in my back with front nose.
Finally, the squad made it back to the beach.
And yelling, Tom, fall back, fall back. And I couldn't see Tommy. And I saw Dane come running, and I said, where's Tommy, where's Tommy? He said, Tommy's dead, Tommy's dead. I said, what do you mean? He said, he was shot in the head, Mike, he's dead. I said, y'all stay here. Tommy was laying on the side of the sand dune. The bullet had entered in his left temple. He lost his whole forehead, his front lower part of his brain, his eye was gone, his structure of his eye socket was gone. And I eliminated these guys that were coming over the top of Tom, and I eliminated them, and I grabbed Tommy and I put him on, and I hear this noise, and I knew exactly what it was. It was from the Newport News, and Tommy had called in to file for effect. That first round hit blew me like 20 feet in the air, and Tommy left my shoulders and flew off. But I moved over to grab Tommy, and he said, "Mike, buddy," and I said, "The SOB's still alive." We got to the water's edge, and I said, "We swim," and I grabbed Tommy. And when I was swimming, you could see the circling, they were just shooting at us. You could see the bullets going through the water. Well, I look off to my right, and there's my buddy, little Kwan over there. He had been shot through his right hip, and his buddy was completely gone. So I grabbed him, and I put his arms over my neck, and he grabbed Tommy, and I put my arms underneath him, and I started breaststroking. And I looked across, and the Newport News turned around and left. So the worst still I ever had in my life, seeing that big ship turn around. I said, "God, where are they going? Where are they going?" If I was going to die, where a better place to die than in the arms of your fellow comrade?
Wounded, towing two men, Thornton swam for more than 2 hours before they were rescued by a search party. Norris and Kwan both survived.
Our plans for the Valor in Vietnam series include interviews with Senator McCain, Leon Panetta, Oliver North, who has previously participated in our programs, and military historian Mike Dawson. We will use archival material from the Library of Congress, the extensive University of South Carolina Film Archives, the Confederate and the Confederate Relic Room, all of which were important in the success and the national broadcast of the South Carolinians in World War II series. If you could bring up, yes, it's up. So what you see here is a graphic of where our Man and Moment programs aired nationally. All the black portions show the markets around the country, which they aired over public television. We offered the productions nationally around Memorial Day 2013 for these moving pieces. There were 695 telecasts in 114 markets in 40 states, with a 65% penetration in the top 25 markets.
Valor in Vietnam will be broadcast nationally as well as a complement to the illustrious Ken Burns, who is producing a 10-part epic on the Vietnam War for broadcast in 2017. There have been no good wars since World War II, but there have been many good and valiant warriors whose selfless sacrifice and heroism we continue to document. It is our hope that each of these works as well will be installed at the planned National Medal Honor of Museum to be constructed at Patriots Point as part of the character development curriculum that the Congressional Medal of Honor Society has developed. And it will be there, we trust, for generations to come.
And Elaine and I would like to thank you, of course, for letting us present our passion to you, including one of your own, and other heroic individuals who are part of our history. We will never, ever forget them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elaine and Wade are going to take a few minutes of questions.
As a veteran using the draft for the Vietnam era, I want to say thank you. But as a parent of one who served in Iraq, and there was no forced service, I thank you for what you're doing. I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
You're welcome.
And of course, we are looking for Vietnam veterans. If you are one or know of any, we want to interview you.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a timetable as to when you're going to air Valor in Vietnam?
We are trusting to the end of 2016, so it will be ready for the Ken Burns series. It will be first broadcast in South Carolina, and you can go to our website or become a member of the ETV Endowment and get our program done.
So my personal goal is December 23rd, so I can have a stress-free holiday.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
coming.
We have just a minute, and I want to tell you something that didn't come out that was of interest to me. I knew Mike Thornton very well for about 10 years, and one of the things he said that you might be interested in, he always followed the orders of his commander. But Tommy was in the Naval Hospital in Washington, D.C. when Mike received his medal. He and Tommy were very close friends. Tommy had saved his life some few months before. He went by the hospital the night before the medal was to be awarded, and the hospital commander came up and said, "Now, I know you Navy SEALs, Tommy is not going to leave this hospital, and if he leaves the hospital, I'm going to see that both of you are awarded punitively and possible discharge." So that night at midnight, Tommy threw a rappel document up to the 3rd floor, went up hand over hand, got Tommy on his back, came down, took him to the hospital and to his hotel room, and he appeared the next day at the White House when President Nixon presented the award to Mike. When the presentation was completed, Nixon said, "And what else can I do for you, Lieutenant Thornton?" And he said, "Mr. President, the commander of the hospital prohibited me or Tommy from helping Tommy leave the hospital and has threatened a very punitive action against us. Can you help us?" So without missing a beat, the president called, had his secretary there, and the letter to whom it may concern, this is to advise that Lieutenant Thornton and Lieutenant Norris were at the White House today under my specific orders. Before any action can be taken, you must first get my personal consent. Richard Nixon, President, Commander-in-Chief. He says when they got back to the hospital, the commander of the hospital was terribly upset. "I told you not to do that. I've sent the papers to our lawyers." Mike says he handed the letter to the commander of the hospital and never heard from him again.
Elaine and Wade, thank you for being here, and we appreciate the information and for all the work you're doing. In general, thank you so much for bringing this program to Columbia Rotary. Let's give them one more round of applause. Okay, I'll ask President-elect John Bacus to stand up and tell us what's coming up.
Thank you. I am really excited about next week's program. And I want to thank Ellen Hayden, who's sitting at the table here with me, for pulling all the important pieces of this program together. I think all of you know that Harris Deloach, who's the chairman of Sunoco Corporation, our state's only Fortune 500 company headquartered in this state, will be with us to present the program. And the reason we're doing this is because of the documentary I saw on SCETV about the work that Sunoco has done in Arlington County to help bring the quality of education in their elementary school program up from the bottom of our state's schools to one of the top districts in the state. And we have invited some of the major players in education in the state of South Carolina to join us tomorrow to hear that presentation. And our hope is that we might plant a mustard seed that might encourage more corporate participation in the education in our state. So I hope that you will come. We'd like to have a really large crowd here to honor Mr. Deloach for coming all the way to speak with us. He's got a lot of other important things to do besides being here at Rotary, but education is really important to him, and education in South Carolina is very important. So we're hoping that the leaders of education in our state, and certainly in this area, will be here. And I hope that you will come and that you will encourage others to come who have a heart for education in the state of South Carolina. I know that SCETV will be here to record his presentation next week. And it's just really, really important, I think, for our state. And hopefully some real good will come out of it. I hope you'll be here to support it.
Thank you, John. That sounds like another real exciting program. You've done a great job this year in scheduling our programs, and thank you for all your hard work. So next Monday, we'll see you. I'll remind all of you to complete the survey, and hopefully you have April 25th on your calendar. So let's stand and we'll sing.
America, America.